Welcome to Hump Day Wednesday, June 5th, 2024, your day weather podcast being brought to you by Wyoming State Parks. With temperatures getting warmer across the state, Wyoming State Parks and historic sites are gearing up with a season of fun and educational summer events. Visit these parks' respective Facebook pages for more information. Well, over the next couple of days, warm and a little bit windy, I'm afraid to say. Winds are going to be picking up and be rather gusty at times still, especially in Wyoming, Montana, and up into the Dakotas, although the further south you go in the central and southern Rockies, the less in the way of wind. But if there's anything good to say about the wind is that it will be accompanied with some pretty warm temperatures, and we have not much in the way of any rain chances in the region today and tomorrow. Dry air has pushed on in. As we have showed you over the last couple of days, moisture comes back into the mix. Not only do we get some moisture coming in from the west, but along and east of the divide, some higher humidity air gets pushed westward across the southern plains towards the Front Range. So Friday and Saturday are the 2 days where I think we've got the best chances for showers and thunderstorms. Not quite sure how Sunday's going to be into the fold yet because we're seeing some disagreements. But certainly Friday and Saturday are 2 days, both sides of the divide and near the mountains where the showers and thunderstorms are going to get going. And we're going to cool off to start next week. In fact, we may start to cool off on Sunday in many areas. So it's going to be pretty warm through Saturday. Sunday into Monday, there'll be a bit of a cool down as some pretty cool air for June will spill into the nation's midsection. And will it ever rain again in southeastern Wyoming? A lot of folks in southeastern Wyoming frustrated as it's been raining in basically all around north, south, east, and west, but it's been very hard to get it to rain around Cheyenne, around the southeast counties of Wyoming, into parts of western Nebraska. You just got to wonder, is this normal? Is what's going on? We'll talk a little bit about that and see what climatology tells us about what happens when you have a dry May. Now, here's a great shot yesterday morning. Those strong winds aloft causing a great cloud formation and feature. Anybody want to guess, any cloud nerds out there, on what the exact name of the cloud formation we're seeing here? This is a mouthful, but there you go. Try to say that fast 10 times in a row. Thanks, Jan, for sending that in. Just a fabulous shot. With the combination of the weather pattern changes, that front and strong winds aloft, you'll get clouds like this time of year. The satellite imagery this morning, pretty quiet, really. Showers and thunderstorms across parts of the southern plains, but we're seeing a general decrease in thunderstorm activity across the lower 48, which is good news, especially for the Midwest, which has been battered up and beat up pretty bad with a lot of tornado and severe weather activity. But across the west, high pressure, drier air settling on into the region here for the next 48 hours. And on the satellite imagery, you can see the warmer, drier desert air coming in, this big orange patch. There's very little water vapor in the air, and the warmer air comes on in. This is why we're going to get warmer. We talked about a plume of moisture to our west that's going to come in Friday and Saturday. There it is, as it will be rotating around the high. We're also going to get return moisture coming up this way behind the front that's currently passing off to our north and east. So these two systems working together to bring that increase in thunderstorm coverage Friday and Saturday. And there you can see where we are in the upper level chart this morning with the placement of the high, the low across southern areas of Canada. And there's that strong wind gradient. As we go back to the 500 millibar chart, we still have strong jet stream winds aloft that are nearly perpendicular to the Continental Divide, so you're going to be windy. But this is the area of wind that will be the worst right here. But the darker shaded green areas are going to be dealing with gusty winds along Interstate 80, the wind corridor. Still going to be dealing with the wind today. Lighter winds, though, once we get south of that line. As we head into Friday, high pressure moves to the east. And you see this is a little bit of a low here. You see these little dents, a little dent right here. There's a little bit of a wave right here. This is going to help bring in that higher water content air into the region. And on the ground, east of the divide, southeast winds are going to start to form east of the divides Friday into Saturday. So there will be a convergence of these two air masses, and that convergence is going to be right along the divide. And when I show you where we expect the thunderstorms to be, you're going to kind of see that convergence right along the continental divide where the better moisture will come together. So here's the precipitable water by Friday afternoon. Here's that moisture coming in from this way. Here's that moisture coming in from that way. So if you're going to find yourself in the mountains of the West Friday, Saturday, and probably into Sunday, if you're going to be up camping, boating, fishing, hiking, or whatever, be on the lookout for late day showers and thunderstorms those 2 days, Friday and Saturday in particular. So here we are with the thunderstorm coverage on Friday. This is where we're going to be with the precipitable water on Saturday. It gets deeper along the Front Range, and where you're going to see these blue areas is where the thunderstorms could be heavy rain producers. And there you see the thunderstorm coverage right along that boundary we just showed you. Notice the thunderstorms are going to be right along that deeper moisture axis. As you get further out into the plains, you don't have that lifting mechanism of the high plains and Rockies to help force that air up. So you're really going to be looking at the thunderstorms along the Front Range and then along the higher terrain. The air is going to be drier up here by Saturday, drier back here. The moisture is just in this thin belt right there. So be on the lookout and remember your lightning safety rules. It's just that time of year. As we get to the end of the weekend and into early next week, we're starting to see the formation of another low coming out of Canada. Look at the winds aloft. This is by Sunday morning. Winds aloft turn in now from the northwest. So what this will do is bring in cooler air, and it will spill in along and east of the divide. And if you see how temperatures unfold, these are the temperature anomalies by Friday. So you can see the western part of the U.S. very warm. For Friday, much cooler in the Great Lakes and points east. But look up here. See all that cool air up in Canada? That's headed south. So that's Friday. Saturday, this is because of the showers and thunderstorms and the additional cloud cover. But you see the cooler air advancing south, and this is the heat we talked about yesterday. In Washington, Oregon, the Great Basin in California, getting some real hot weather. By Sunday afternoon, that colder air really starts to spill south. So we're going to see, I could see the colder air maybe staying a little bit further east on Sunday, maybe a little bit more west. We'll just have to watch it. But the heat gets pushed westward. And most of the nation, east of the Rockies, is going to really cool off early next week relative to the 30-year average, while the heat will be in the far west. Now, let's go and talk about the southeastern Wyoming problems of getting rainfall. If you look at the last 6 months, the anomalies for precipitation for the last 6 months is pretty good if you look at the green and the blue areas. Now, this is the past 6 months cumulative. Doesn't take into account what's happened here recently. But you can see that we've got these patches of blue and patches of brown west of the divide where the anomalies are either dry or wet. Generally speaking, most of this map here, with the exception of this area here, has had above average precipitation for the last 6 months, including southeastern Wyoming. But if you take a look at what has happened over the last 30 days, well, it's a different story. We've had this area of constant area of showers and thunderstorms and spring snows up here, as we've been showing you, as these Pacific fronts have been transiting that area up there, leading to downsloping winds for the most part here. So the precipitation anomaly in western Nebraska, southeastern Wyoming, parts of the northern Front Range of Colorado is showing up right there, and west of the divide as well. So the last 30 days, the water spigot has just turned off, and it was a very dry May in many areas. So let's just take Cheyenne as the area where we'll look at the data to see how dry May was. If you look at the average, if you go and use the average since 1936, where we have decent data, Cheyenne averages 2.4 inches of moisture in the month of May and just under 15 inches for the year. Last year was spectacular. It was above average in May, and look at that, over 20 inches of rain, precipitation rather, in Cheyenne during 2023. That was a great year, plus 6 inches above the 30-year average. So that is fabulous. But let's take a look at some of the driest Mays. 1974 winds, only 0.11 of an inch. That was during the La Nina. 2012, a lot of folks remember how dry 2012 was. Well, just 0.3 of an inch. This past year, 2024, well, not much better than 2012, that's for sure. And that's during right now, as we've been talking, La Nina is coming on. So you see a theme here. La Nina is just nothing but good news, nothing but bad news when it comes to rainfall in southeastern Wyoming. You see this trend over and over again. But does a dry May mean it's going to stay dry in June? Well, interestingly enough, and I'm not saying this is going to happen at all, but if you look back at those 3 periods of very dry Mays, the following Junes were wet. After only 1174, it was very wet the following month. It was very wet in 2012 after a very dry May. Will that happen this year? I don't know. Right now, it's not looking good, at least here at the beginning of the month. But just to put things in perspective, it really was a severely dry month of May in southeastern Wyoming, and using Cheyenne as an example. Although there were portions of the Cheyenne area that had 0.6 of an inch, but the official coming in at 0.34. So keep your fingers crossed. If history is anything that might be a hint, maybe those years will give us a little bit of hope that maybe we'll turn things around in June, but we got to start turning those things around here quickly. Have yourself a good Wednesday. We'll see you tomorrow.